Hello and welcome to my Throne of Thunder raid guide. My name is Aliena, and in this video I'll show you all you have to know about Heroic Iron Quan. I'll assume you know how to kill the normal version of this fight and will only go over what changes for the heroic mode. We completed this fight with 1 tank, 3 healers and 6 DPS, but similar raid configurations may work just as well. This encounter can be solo tanked fairly easily as long as you have 2 paladins in your raid to remove stacks of Impale with Blessing of Protection. We remove Impale after about 3 to 4 stacks. The most glaring new mechanic on Heroic Iron Quan lies in the Quillen mounts he rides. All 3 mount phases end when Rorschach, Quetzal, and Damran reach 25% health. However, at the end of phase 3, after you get Damran to 25%, not only will Iron Quan himself become active, but all 3 mounts will also re-enter the fight and simultaneously attack your raid. The other difference is that during each of the mount phases, a secondary Quillen will sporadically attack your raid with some of their abilities from afar. In phase 1, while you're battling Rorschach, Quetzal will cast Lightning Storm on random players, as well as summon massive cyclones that are aimed at a random player, but will hit every raid member in their way. The Lightning Storm must be broken by clicking on the afflicted player. This should be done by a nearby available raid member, and as per normal will inflict Arcing Lightning. The cyclone should be avoided whenever possible. It inflicts about 200k damage and knocks back anyone that it hits. Rorschach's Unleashed Flame can be handled as normal. Our raid splits into 3 groups, 1 melee and 2 ranged groups, and each group takes 3 stacks of Unleashed Flame. We found this method to work best as it gives us greater flexibility in designating who will take stacks next. Typically, we rotate all 3 groups. However, if it's a group's turn that just got a particularly bad fire spear, we have the option to skip that group until they recover. You could split your raid into 2 groups and have them take 3 or more stacks each, or 3 groups that take 2 stacks each. Whatever works best for you on normal will probably work well on heroic as well. Once Rorschach retreats, you deal with Quetzal. His abilities are the same as normal, but you'll get visited by Damran, who will cast Frostspike at random raid members. These are tiny icicles on the ground that are fairly hard to see, and they deal about 150k damage as well as knock an afflicted player back. Whenever possible, these should be avoided. Quetzal's Windstorm deals more damage, which means your raid must have a reliable way of dealing with it. If you have a Warlock on your team, have them put up a portal from the Windstorm origin to the back of the room. Up to 5 people can take the portal, which should ideally be healers and some ranged DPS. Healers that are out of the storm will be able to heal other raid members even if they are still in the storm. Cooldowns such as Tranquility and Revival should be employed as soon as possible after exiting the storm. Once Quetzal retreats, you're left with Damran. In this phase, Rorschach will visit and cast Unleashed Flame on the largest stack of raid members. If there's no stack, Rorschach will cast it on a single random raid member, which is pretty much a death sentence. To avoid this, you should designate your melee team, or a different cluster of at least 3 people, to stay stacked and soak the Unleashed Flame. Once you get Damran to 25% health, Iron Quan himself will dismount and attack your raid, and both Rorschach and Quetzal will reappear with the health you previously got them to. They all retain their original abilities. That means Rorschach will use Unleashed Flame, Quetzal will use Lightning Storm, and Damran will use the Dead Zone and Freeze. This is a good time to use Bloodlust. You must burn down all 3 mounts before killing Iron Quan himself. We first took out Damran, then Rorschach, and lastly Quetzal. If you're using 1 tank, he or she should prepare big cooldowns for the start of this phase while all 3 mounts are alive. Your melee team or another group consisting of 3 people must stay stacked until Rorschach is dead to soak the Unleashed Flame stack and prevent Rorschach from exploding. They should only rake up about 3 to 5 stacks before he dies. If necessary, personal or raid cooldowns can be used for this, though you might want to save your bigger cooldowns. Once they die, only Iron Quan is left. As in the normal version, make sure your raid is completely clear of Arcing Lightning before you stack up. You should have a cooldown rotation prepared for Quan's fist smashes. We typically go through 5 smashes per kill, but you might want to plan on 6 or even 7 depending on your DPS. Save your biggest raid CDs for the last smashes. Overall, Heroic Iron Quan is not that much harder than its normal counterpart. However, it requires good coordination between your raid members and is a somewhat unforgiving damage and healing check, especially if you're using 2 tanks and 3 healers. Rorschach, as well as the intermission phase where all mounts are active, are the biggest challenges. Once you figure out these parts, Iron Quan should fall pretty quick. I'm putting a link to the whole encounter to the video info in case you want to see how we dealt with the various mechanics in detail. Good luck and have fun!